Hey guys, it's Melanie. Welcome back. I hope you're having a great day so far. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys some tips and tricks, some things that I have done or learned over the years to help me deal with problem candles. Now, every single company that I like to frequent for candles or home fragrance can have a candle or two, or in the case of Bath & Body Works, a lot of candles that can cause problems for me. I am not someone who is big on returning problem candles. I know that there's a lot of people out there that just, if something doesn't work right for them, they just immediately take it back to the store or send it back to the company. I don't know, I don't feel like doing that most of the time. I don't have time necessarily for that, nor do I want to. So there are some things that I have in terms of accessories that help me get the most out of the home fragrance that I purchase. And so today's video, I just thought I would kind of use as one of those videos that I could always link in the description box of my home fragrance related videos, so that if you maybe are someone who is newer to home fragrance, or you just don't know what to do with all these candles that are not working properly for you, whether it's tunneling, whether it's sooting, whether it's whatever the problem is, there are things that you can do to still be able to either fix the problem or still continue to enjoy the fragrance and use it up. And then, you know, you can make the decision obviously afterwards whether you want to repurchase or if you're just going to kind of skip that particular fragrance in the future because it's a problem child for you. So I do have a list of some of the more common problems that you can deal with when it comes to home fragrance. Especially, I'm talking mostly candles here. Wax melts, I don't know. I don't ever really have issues with wax melts other than certain brands can last longer than other brands. But besides that, like, I never really deal with much when it comes to wax melts. So this is specifically revolving around candles in this video. I will be linking some things in the description box below this video. So if you want to know where to purchase these things, there will be links down there for you, and you can feel free to go and invest in any of these accessories that may help you with your problem candles. Okay, so we're gonna get started. First on my list of possible candle problems is tunneling. So tunneling is where a candle does not pool out completely to the edges of the candle. And what happens is wax almost has like a memory. And if you blow that candle out, either before it has completely pulled to the edge, or it just never ever wants to pull to the edge, when you go to relight that candle the next time, in all likelihood, the candle is just going to continue to only melt to that initial, like, I guess, diameter that it did for the first burn. So it's like the candle sort of thinks like, okay, like this is where the edge is, and we just kind of tunnel down from here, right? So that's tunneling. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory, but if you're not familiar with the terminology, that's what I'm referring to there. So there's a few things that I use in my collection of accessories that can help me with tunneling candles. The first thing that I used to do a lot in the past was to take tin foil and to sort of like wrap it around the outside of the candle to create a little bit of like a candle sleeve, if you will. And what that's gonna do is it's going to help to hold the heat within the candle so that hopefully it can completely melt to the edge again. Now, the tinfoil doesn't look super aesthetically pleasing, so I no longer do that, but let me show you some accessories that I have that help me with tunneling. First thing I'm gonna mention is get you a hurricane. Now this one here is actually a hurricane that I received as a birthday gift years and years ago for my sister-in-law. It is a Bath and Body Works Hurricane. I actually love this one, and oh my gosh, it still has the little tag on. I never took the price tag off. This was $40 back in the day. It's this beautiful mercury glass. Here's the thing though, you can go to Home Goods, you can go to Marshall's, TJ Maxx, you can go to IKEA, you can go to your local Goodwill, and you can find hurricanes of many different styles, sizes, whatever that you can use. And what you're gonna do is put your candle inside. What the hurricane does is it helps to hold the heat in, and it's going to hopefully help that candle cool out completely. So a hurricane is a great accessory to have. If you don't want to hide your candles inside of a hurricane, another option is what's called a candle sleeve. At least that's what I call these. You can find these, mostly I have found these on Amazon, so I will link a few different places on Amazon that you can get these. They come in different sizes. This one here, I don't remember what the diameter of this is, maybe 6 inches across, I'm not really sure. But you can slip this over your candle, and then again, the glass is going to help to hold that heat in so that your candle can melt completely across. Now, when you start burning a new candle, it is especially important on the very first burn that you let it cool out completely, because that memory that the wax has is a real thing. Like, it will not pull out completely if you don't let the candle go completely edge to edge in terms of like liquefying the wax on the first burn. It's really important. So if you don't have the time to dedicate to getting a full pull out of a candle, for example, paraffin, man, that stuff takes forever to pull out, right? Like, if you don't have a couple of hours to dedicate to letting that happen, wait until a subsequent burn when you do have the time, because the likelihood is that if you let that candle tunnel the first time by blowing it out before it pulls out, you're just gonna have problems for the life of that candle going forward. So get you either a candle sleeve or a hurricane, or, you know, if you want to wrap some tin foil around, that will certainly help. Another thing that I would recommend is getting one of these. What is this? This is a candle lamp. I actually have a candle lamp 101 video. I will link that in the description box below this video. That will go into depth a little bit more. But I have used this recently to help with my Nest Autumn Plum. Now, that one just did not want to pool. It just would not go across the entirety of the like diameter of the candle. No matter what I tried, no matter how long I left it burning, it just would not pull out completely. That's not a super frequent problem with Nest candles, but it does happen from time to time. And as we know, Nest candles kind of expensive, and I need to maximize my burn on those, right? So this candle lamp, this one is fantastic because it has a bunch of really great features, but the one that I like the most is that this part here is adjustable. So no matter how tall or short your candle is, you don't have to worry about like putting things down here such as books or coasters to like get your candle closer to the bulb that's down here. This has a halogen bulb, and what it's going to do is it's going to melt the top of your candle again so that it's even. Make sure that you don't trim the wick before you do this, because you want the wick to hopefully be as long as possible, because it might be, if your candle has been tunneling for a little while, that wax is definitely going to like fill in that hole again. And you know, you want to leave enough of a wick to where you can easily relight the candles. So I would really only recommend this if you are in the beginning stages of your candle and you don't necessarily have a ton of wax on the sides. And the only reason is that, you know, it could be that your wick gets buried in the wax. You need to pay attention to the length of your wick and whether you have enough wick left to then subsequently light the candle again. And once you relight the candle, make sure you let it pull out to the edge again, because otherwise you're just gonna have that tunneling again. Another option, and this is something that I don't personally have, but my friend Fiona, who, she's over on Instagram. She has a Instagram that is dedicated to candle reviews. It's called Wax and Facts. I will list her Instagram down below, but she uses these things called candle toppers, and they are these metal, essentially, lids that you place on top of your candle, and it again helps to retain the heat and help with cooling issues. So you can certainly invest in those. I don't remember, I think it's just called candletoppers.com. Don't quote me on that. I will link it in the description box below this video, but she swears by these, and while I have not picked any up, I trust Fiona completely, and so that might be another option for you. And the great thing about the candle toppers is they come in lots of different designs, so they're kind of fun. They're like a fun decorative thing that you can use on top of your candles. Another thing you can do is, and this, actually, you know what, this not so much. We're gonna save this trick for another one because I don't think the cotton balls really help with tunneling very much. Okay, so what if you are experiencing huge tall flames on your candles? If you are not trimming your wicks before each burn, that's something that you need to do. I have this wick trimmer here from Yankee Candle. I have had this for years, but actually, and I forgot to bring them in here, if you have little cuticle scissors, sometimes cuticle scissors are actually better. Especially if you have a candle where the wicks are a little bit more delicate. I think this particular trimmer is, it's great for paraffin candles because those wicks tend to be a lot stronger, a lot tougher. But you know, something like this might not be really great for very delicate wicks. So those little tiny cuticle scissors are very small, and you can get into, like, you know, into the jar very easily and just trim a little bit off the top of the wick. But you really need to be trimming your wicks most likely before the start of each burn. If you don't, you can let the wicks get way too long, and that's where you get those really tall, kind of scary flames sometimes. You never want to trim your wicks too short though. And this is where you're gonna kind of have to play with the different brands that you enjoy burning from. So for example, I know that I have to be a little bit more careful with my Homeworx candles because those wicks tend to be a little bit more delicate. But when I am, you know, trimming the wicks for my country candles from Kringle, I know that I can easily go in with something like this and trim those very easily that way. But trimming your wicks is a big thing that you should get in the habit of doing, just because it prevents a lot of different issues, but the bigger flames can certainly be prevented by that. So play around with how long or how short you cut your wicks. Certain candles can handle a shorter wicks. Other ones, if you cut them too short, you basically just destroyed your candles. So I'm not gonna tell you exact sizes because again, I think it really varies by brand. So you're gonna kind of have to play around with it. Okay, mushrooming. Mushrooming on a candle can really lead to a lot of sooting problems. And what I'm talking about is, this doesn't happen with every single candle or every single fragrance necessarily, but if you see that after you blow out your candle, there are these huge, like, it's like a carbon residue that forms at the very top of your wicks. Certain types of wicks create bigger mushroom tops. Some wicks don't create any at all. It just kind of depends on the brand and the formula. But the mushrooming is really important to take care of because if you leave that on, when you go to relight the candle, those can actually pop off. I've done this before where I've been kind of lazy about trimming wicks, and that little carbon ball can pop off. And you know, if you have that lit because you're lighting the candles, then that can pop out and burn your coffee table or whatever surface that you have your candle on top of. Hopefully it doesn't catch fire when that happens. It's a big fire hazard. So if you see those mushroom tops, please clip them off. Again, wick trimmer or cuticle scissors is the best route to go with that. Another thing that I would recommend is if the wicks are sturdy enough, take a piece of tissue paper, and you can also gently wipe your wicks. If your wicks are really short to start with, but you have that mushroom top on top of there, take that tissue and very gently just kind of run it up the length of the wick and get rid of those carbon balls at the top that way. For example, with my country candles, I actually always wipe the wicks because I find that that really helps to reduce the sooting with paraffin wax. And the type of wicks that they use at Kringle for the country candle line, they're super hardy. Like you could almost like bend the wick back and forth multiple times before it would ever even snap off for you. So, but again, you need to know your wicks, you need to know your candles to know whether you can do that wiping trick. For example, I cannot do that with Homeworx candles, but I can do that with Nest candles. I can do it with country candles. I can actually do it with the Kringle soy candles as well, but those I just trim like the very top of the wicks off, and those are always good to go. That is like the cleanest burning formula that I have, is the Kringle soy formula. So you guys know I'm a big fan of that. And the number one thing for mushrooming is don't burn your candles for more than 3 to 4 hours. That's usually my rule actually, for regardless of the brand. The Kringle soy candles I can burn for hours and hours and I never have any issues with those. But Bath and Body Works candles, I have to burn anywhere from like 2 to 4 hours would be the max. Homeworx candles, I burn between 2 and 3.5 hours. Country candles, I can go a little bit longer with those, especially because it's paraffin. But that being said, paraffin it's just prone to sooting a little bit more, so I typically don't burn them super long anyway. But watch the amount of time that you are burning your candles. Most candles come with instructions on the bottoms that tell you like the maximum burn time. You should follow those instructions. I know it can be fun to kind of just do your own thing, but I do believe that the manufacturers definitely put those suggestions on that label for a reason. So you should follow those suggestions. Okay. Strength and throw. If you are struggling with the strength and throw of your candles, sometimes it's because it's a weak candle and there's not a whole lot you can do. But a couple things to look at once again are using either a sleeve or a hurricane. Personally, I have found that these two accessories can also help improve strength and throw. It makes the candle burn just a little bit hotter. And so what that's going to do is it's going to help release more of those fragrance oils. And another thing to think about is, where are you burning your candle? Do you have good airflow? If you don't have good airflow, then you might not get a lot of throw, even if the candle's really strong. If you have it just like in a dead zone of your house where there's not much air moving around, it's probably not going to travel super far. So pay attention to the different areas of your house. For example, the very best area in my house is the front entryway. Even though we have massively tall ceilings right there, it's almost like there is this like tornado, like vortex situation in that area where it takes whatever scent I have on my entryway table and it swirls it around and it throws it to the back of the house, to the front of the house, even to the upstairs, and sometimes the scent will travel all the way to the back of the house here where I am. And that's a long way to go, but it's because the airflow is so good in that particular area. So pay attention to where you're putting your candles and try moving them around your house. You might need to figure out where your dead zones are and where your fragrance vortex is. So definitely something worth thinking about there. Okay, Wicks flopping over. This is something that I see people complain about quite frequently with Homeworx candles. And that is due to, I think, a few different reasons. I do think there are some people who just burn their Homeworx candles far too long. Like they have a massively deep wax pool, and especially if they have not trimmed their wicks and they have giant mushroom tops, those wicks aren't going to be super strong in a situation like that, and there is a good likelihood that they could eventually just flop over and fall into the wax. And once that happens, especially if they break off at the base, when that happens, you're not going to be able to fix that. That wick is gone. You can use the other 3 wicks and hopefully, you know, everything stays lit. But really, you do have to make sure that your wicks are trimmed, that you are not burning your candles too long to where you have this massive deep wax pool, especially one that goes all the way down to the bottom of the candle where the wick clips are glued to the glass jar. Pay attention to that kind of stuff. But Homeworx also has had times where they just had really bad wicks. The wicks were not properly attached to the wick clip, or sometimes they just snap off for whatever reason, right? In cases like that, there's not a whole lot you can do. I would suggest, if you're not getting a complete pool on those candles, burn the other wicks still and then use your candle lamp to sort of get to the area where the wax is not melting. But honestly, I've had a few of my Homeworx candles that have lost a wick, and for the most part, I can still burn the candle down completely. Now, if you lose like 2 wicks, I don't know, at that point, I think you're just gonna have to lamp that bad boy. But this is why I think it's handy having something like this, because you can still enjoy that fragrance. You're not gonna enjoy the ambiance of the flame, but you can still enjoy the fragrance. Homeworx candles obviously do not fit into candle crocks, which is where I would tell you to put your candles if, you know, if they can fit into a crock. So this is my favorite candle crock here. I've had this for a number of years. No, this one's not still available, but I always link a really neutral candle crock option in the description. So I will again link something that's super neutral. There's this really nice cream colored one that I like to link, but I do obviously love the design of this one. So if I have Bath & Body Works candles where the wicks drown or whatever, I will put those in here. And what this does is it warms the candle not only from the bottom but from around the sides, and then the fragrance is released. One big thing to know about crocks is once you put a candle in here, that's it. Like, you're not going to take it back out and relight that candle, because the wick clips in all likelihood will have come unglued and will be traveling around the bottom of the candle. And when you go to light a candle that has a wick that has migrated over to the glass too much, you are going to create a massive fire hazard for yourself, because if you light that wick and it heats this glass to a point where it then cracks, or worse yet, explodes, you're going to have not only a waxy mess on your hands, but also a fire hazard. So be really, really mindful of when you are committing your candle to a crock, that's where you want that candle to stay. It's not gonna come back out. So depending on how much wax you have left, that will determine how many more hours of fragrance you get out of it. You will always be left with the wax in the crock, because the only thing that dissipates are the fragrance oils. Now with the lamp, you are warming from the top instead of the bottom up. So you could technically relight a candle that you have used underneath the lamp, provided that the wick clips are still very securely fastened to the bottom. If you're confident in that, then you can relight that candle. But yeah, with the crock, not so much. So pick carefully where you're gonna go, because if you want to relight the candle, you're gonna wanna go with a lamp. If you don't care, go with the crock. I think either is a fantastic option, so there you go. Another thing is, you can also sometimes, if a wick, we're going back to the Wicks swapping over really quickly here, sometimes you can gently lift that wick up and out of the wax and stand it up again. So as the candle starts to harden again after you blow it out, sometimes you can they have like these wick dippers that you can use. You can use a butter knife, you can use like a barbecue skewer, whatever you have, and you can lift that wick up and kind of hold it in place, if you will, as the wax hardens, and then you can continue to move on with that wick. Hopefully it stays upright the subsequent burns. So Okay, drowning wicks. All right, so this is where we get into what a lot of us do, which is cotton balling our candles. So if you have a wick or many wicks that are just drowning in your wax because you either cut the wicks too short or for whatever reason, a lot of my Bath and Body Works wicks will sometimes just dud out. It'll get what's most people call puny wick syndrome. So what you can do in that case is take a few cotton balls. Obviously, please blow your candle out before you do this. That seems like common sense to me, but there have been times where people have come back and they've done things that I am just like, why'd you do that? So just to be clear, blow your candle out, sort of let that wick cool down a little bit, but before your wax completely hardens up again, toss some cotton balls in there. It'll soak up some of that excess wax. Then you can fish those out, and then hopefully you are left with a longer wick. Another thing you can do is pour out some of the wax. You can pour it into an empty candle container. You can pour it into the garbage. Obviously, and again, common sense, never pour your wax down your drain or down your toilet. It's gonna clog your pipes. So please don't do that. I feel like, again, that's common sense, but we are, after all, on the internet where logic does not always reign supreme. So yeah, pouring off some of that wax or soaking it up with a cotton ball is a great way to get rid of that excess wax, and potentially you can then move forward with relighting those wicks after the wax is hardened up, and maybe the candle will behave for you. Sometimes with Bath and Body Works, like even though I take some of the wax out, the wicks just continue to dud out. Like they burn up. I don't know why. Sometimes they have crappy wicks. So yeah, but that's something that you can do for that puny wick syndrome, is to either pour off that wax or use some cotton balls. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, sometimes you have candles where the wick is off center, and you know, like maybe it's a one wick and your wick is kind of over here near the edge of the candle, or you have a 2 or a 3 wick or a 4 wick candle and one of the wicks for whatever reason is leaning off to the side or was just placed incorrectly. Don't light that wick. Again, you are going to potentially create a fire hazard by burning a wick that is far too close to the edge of the glass. That can, again, cause the glass to explode. I would say at that point, go to your good friends, the lamp or the crock, and use those to enjoy that candle. Or if it happens to be from a retailer where you can easily go exchange the candle, go do that. Bath and Body Works still has a great return policy. I know when you order from QVC, you can return candles, but a lot of like the, you know, independent candle companies, like they don't necessarily have a great return policy, or you might have to pay the return shipping, which I don't know, to me, like the hassle of packing a candle back up, taking it to UPS or FedEx or to the post office, like I don't have the time nor the energy for that. So I just like to use what I have on hand. And then, you know, I can decide whether I want to risk repurchasing that candle again in the future or not. If it's great scent, it might be worth it, because sometimes I do just buy candles just to put them in the crock. That might seem really wasteful to some people, but I get home fragrance that way. It works for me. It's almost like using my Scentsy warmers, right? Like the wax always stays in the warmer and then I toss it. Like I don't see it as being any different with the crock, except, you know, the wax does already have some wicks in it, and I could choose to light it if I want to, but sometimes I just don't want to. Sometimes I just want to use up my candles in my crocks or underneath my lamps. Anyway, you guys, those are some of the most common issues that I typically deal with problem candles. Let me know if there are any issues that I did not address, and if you have a unique or really super fantastic idea for fixing that problem, share. This will be the comments down below. Please share your favorite tips and tricks. And that way, as people are watching this video, they can scroll through the comments and see if there's anything that maybe might be more appealing to them. I mean, maybe people don't want to deal with a crock, maybe they don't want to deal with a lamp, maybe they don't want to deal with a sleeve, and maybe, well, this video turned out to be a little bit longer than I expected. But anyway, I just want to finish my thought here really quickly, and then I promise we'll be done. Maybe there just isn't something that I've thought of in terms of how to deal with a potential problem. So you guys are always a plethora of information as well, so leave your tips and tricks in the comments down below. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you're new. I appreciate you guys being here, and yeah, let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you for the next one. Take care. Toodaloo.